And it burns,
Ladies and gentlemen, we have not had time to upload it yet, but Gerard Batten, who's a big EU member of Parliament with UKIP, interviewed today for like 15 minutes. I've got two different parts. That'll be up tonight, tomorrow on the radio in the first hour with David Knight. Before I come in the second 2 hours, that will be aired here. Big interview. He's calling for a criminal investigation with UKIP of the Bilderberg Group.
Bravo!
Bravo!
Bravo! You've done it again. Another
Absolutely.
major score.
No.
Major accomplishment. Put that in the win column. I just found out that we're actually broadcasting the video, too. I thought it was just audio.
No, Max.
Look, here's this. This is a chart of the US.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the dollar is plunging right now.
The dollar is plunging. You can't see it, so.
No, I know how to do it.
Oh, there you go. The dollar is plunging. And I want to talk about a prediction I made on your show 10 months ago. I said within 9 months, and I said April, there would be a big crash, a big event. And
here, start over.
Why? Because now we're on the air? What is wrong?
I had to move the mic.
What is wrong with you people? I said on your show 10 months ago there would be a major crash of some type, and probably in April. Here we are now in June, first week of June.
I'm going to have later.
Okay, so the timing is pretty good. We've got
Fortune favors the bold.
Yeah, major crash in the dollar. Looks like Japan is blowing up, as I said it would. Bond market yields are now rising, as I said
Look at
it
that
would.
drop. How much is it dropping?
It's huge. Okay, so let me make this point clear. I went on a limb and made a very specific prediction on your show because I was trying to out Gerald Celente, okay? I wanted to get a specific date so I could be the Prognosticator of the Year award. Well, I missed by 5 or 6 days, a few weeks, so Gerald still has the crown as top prognosticator in the world. But the point is that here we are in a major collapse. Dollar, bonds, it's all coming unglued in Japan. As I said, Alex, I want to go on record because most of the phone calls.
Lyle Turdberg is meeting.
Yeah, these phone calls are going to be like, what about April? What about April? Here it is. This is all happening. This just is revolving in real time, and this is the crash. This is the Armageddon. This is the Bondpocalypse. Now, additionally, I want to point out that I also would like to claim.
How much has it dropped?
That's huge. My prediction, if you were to price all of these securities against Bitcoin, then I'm absolutely correct that there was a major collapse in April. I know you don't want to go into the Bitcoin thing, but I just want to get that on record, that against Bitcoin, I was exactly to the day. But against...
But let me ask you this question. Are you friends with Peter Thiel?
I'm not friends with Peter Thiel, but we are co-investors in a Bitcoin-related company called BitPay, which I encourage you at InfoWars to accept, so that people with Bitcoins, there are billions of people with Bitcoins out there. They want to spend them at Infowars.com, but there's no way to do it. With BitPay, they can spend Bitcoin on your site. Yes, I'm commandeering the microphone. With BitPay, they can use Bitcoin to buy the ProPure water filters, to buy the InfoWars T-shirt, to buy the Paul Watson fan club buttons, to buy the Alex Jones, I saw Alex Jones at the mall buttons and T-shirts and the ProPure and the hemp cigarette and all the porta potties. They can buy them with Bitcoin using BitPay, BitPay.com. Now, Peter Thiel and I are co-investors in BitPay. So
have you ever talked to him?
No, I have not talked to him. He is one of the gang from PayPal that has made $1 billion or so. We came together simply because we're co-investors through the CEO of BitPay, a guy named Tony Galippi, who has me investing in BitPay. But you got to accept Bitcoin. Bitcoin, accept Bitcoin.
All right, he's not had his medication. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, Max Kaiser is here with us. I promise your calls are coming up in the next segment. My only issue is I was told by a high-level media person, I'll just say this on air. I was allowed.
Walter Cronkite.
You know, he died a few years ago.
Jessica Savage.
No, I was told by, it's a media owner.
Amy Goodman?
No, much bigger than that. I was told by a media owner at dinner a few months ago that Peter Thiel's a listener and he knows Bilderberg has problems and he's trying to get him to go public. I kind of, and by the way, would you ever want to meet Peter Thiel? We'll fly up there in a jet. And I'm like, I know not to tell rich people, yeah, I'll get on your private jet because it'll actually land. I've had that with Charlie Sheen. So the point is we're going to break. I want to get your take on this when we come back and we go to calls. Then I get told by two different senator connections. I'm going to say senators. It's just
Rand Paul.
No, not like it was not. It
wasn't Rand Paul.
Actually, wasn't. Actually, wasn't.
Peter Thiel.
Wasn't actually Rand Paul.
Oh, of course.
I was just told, no. You know, the globalists figured this out. Would you like to ever talk to them. Also, they're going to be going public very, very soon. And then I talked to the BBC, and they say that. And then I talked to MI5 we had dinner with.
So what? You didn't. There's a premise there without a...
No, I know. The point is they're reaching out to little old me.
About what?
I don't know. But my point is they must be...
People are reaching out to you.
They must be in trouble.
What? What
if
are
they
they
want
reaching out about?
No, that they're debating internally whether they're going to go public. We'll be right back with Max Kaiser and Alex Jones, Stacey Herbert. And this is, of course, a Paul Joseph Watson production. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Authoritarian control freaks throughout history have sought to make populations dependent. The United Nations openly has talked about using food as a weapon against the third world and the industrialized first world. State Department Memorandum 200, developed by Henry Kissinger, called for destroying the food capacity, not just of the United States, but every country in the world, so they could use food scarcity as a political weapon of control. Just a decade ago, less than 10 million Americans were on food stamps. 4 years ago, it was 25 million. It's now reached almost 50 million. Socialist health care is designed to destroy our health care system. The establishment wants you to be a bunch of cowardly, dumbed-down people who can't stand up for yourselves. That's why they're rushing to try to restrict citizens owning firearms. Because since the early 1990s, gun ownership has gone straight up, while violent crime has gone straight down by 49%. And globalist-controlled strongholds like Chicago and New York, where they've taken the citizens' guns, have the highest crime rates in the world. What am I getting at here? The system doesn't want you to be self-sufficient. That's why I promote the fact that you should go out, buy firearms, and go take lessons and learn how to use them. I want you to stand up for your birthright of liberty and freedom. During a serious meltdown, they're going to tell you, hey, you want food? Turn in your guns. And that's why we need to put the globalists in check. And then finally bring them to checkmate by being self-sufficient, by being prepared, by having a garden, by learning how to can your own foods, by having friends and family and community that will stand together. But at the heart of that is having quality, storable foods. And that's why I went out more than a decade ago and found the very best food company to be my sponsor, eFoods Direct. They're the company that I personally use for my emergency food storage preparation, whether it be for natural disasters or the tyranny that is intensifying. So give them a call, 800-409-5633. That's 800-409-5633. Or efoodsdirect.com/Alex to find the weekly and monthly specials. But they're always running the specials where you can get the free 6 meals and the eFoods Direct audio CD put together by the experts in storable foods to answer all your questions, the eFoods planning guide, the eFoods brochure, the eFoods catalog, plus 6 free meals, creamy potato soup, tortilla soup, and cheesy chicken rice, so you can sample the high-quality storable foods from eFoods Direct. They've got a bunch of other specials.
The 2-week food supply provides one adult with 81 servings of healthy, delicious, storable food for 14 days.
The 1-month food supply provides 192 servings for 28 days.
And then there's the 1-month family food pack. It will change the way you look at the food in your pantry. Every time you eat one of these meals, you are eating healthy, delicious food and saving a lot of money.
The 3-month food supply, 576 servings of storable food for 91 days.
And the 1-year food supply will provide you with 2,304 servings of healthy, delicious, storable food for 1 full year.
Your meals are as delicious and nutritious tonight as they'll be in 25 years.
Bottom line, there's a bunch of specials at efoodsdirect.com/Alex. You can also call them at the toll-free number on your screen, and they can send you a catalog with all the specials detailed and tell you about the weekly and monthly specials that they're always running. efoodsdirect.com/Alex to find all the specials or call the toll-free number. And so in closing, when you buy from efoodsdirect.com, you are supporting the radio broadcast, the nightly news, the magazine, the films, and everything we're doing. Because we're not like MSNBC or Media Matters that get government and corporate funding to bring down America and bring in tyranny. We are funded by our sponsors and you, the viewers and listeners that support them. Again, that's efoodsdirect.com/Alex or 800-409-5633. And when you're also visiting Infowars.com or PrisonPlanet.com, you can click on the banners to take you to the weekly and monthly specials. It's like the Hank Williams Jr. song, "A Country Boy Can Survive," because you can't starve us out and you can't make us run, because these boys were raised on shotguns. Well, there aren't really a lot of good old boys left anymore, are there? And those that are out there are demonized and are enemy number one by Homeland Security. And good old boys come in all shapes, colors, and sizes. They're people that aren't chumps, who understand that they're going to take care of their family and that nobody else is. They're people that understand that if somebody else is taking care of them, that makes them a slave. And that the government doesn't want you dependent because they want to build a great future for you. They want to get you dependent so they can social engineer us. So the answer is get self-sufficient, become men again, and tell the New World Order to go straight to hell. Alex Jones signing off for Infowars.com and eFoods Direct, our great sponsor. I want to go to phone calls, but you had one other point that you wanted to make. We got Steve Watson coming in here about Ed Balls.
Talk about UKIP, okay? Nigel Farage became a global media sensation before he was even on the radar in British politics because of your show, because of RT. Russia Today, my network.
No, UKIP's told me that.
That's right. So that's, again, where the global media is exerting pressure and changing the political landscape. That's why Bilderberg now has to respond, because they look at Nigel Farage. If there was no Alex Jones, no RT, no global independent media space, Nigel Farage would not be getting 15% of the general vote in Britain. So this is really a global phenomenon. The BBC is so dusty and so old and so protected.
Arrogant.
They're totally arrogant, and they haven't changed at all in 30, 40 years. And after the so-called Hutton affair from a few years ago, they're completely afraid to do any breaking news whatsoever, any investigative journalism whatsoever. I've talked to journalists over at the BBC. They're like in a bomb shelter over there. They can't put their nose out and investigate anything.
By the way, Bilderberg kept driving in today with some paper, I haven't found it yet, that said child pedophile killer released. And they would use the paper to cover their face. And then, Stacey, you were telling me about your friend that tried to fly in here to, as the press, tried to come in here to cover. I want to get you in to talk about that. Tried to cover the whole pedophile stuff with Savelle before it broke, and they stopped her at the border. Our reporter got sent back as well. Go ahead.
Well, the pedophile scandals in this country have been around for a while, and it's a function, actually, of the very onerous libel laws in this country that prevent people from speaking out. The reason Jimmy Savile was able to violate 400 or 500 boys and girls, minors, with sexual assault is because if you go to the press and you say, I believe this man is sexually assaulting me, he can sue you for everything you're worth. And the way the libel law is set up here is different in the United States, is that instead of having to prove who's at fault here, it's completely reversed, so that you, the victim, ends up paying all the legal costs, and you, the victim, invariably end up getting, taken down by the establishment. So this is why Jimmy Savile was able to operate for years without any significant challenge, is because of the libel laws that exist here in this country. And I'll tell you something very interesting, Alex Jones, is that America, one thing that the Obama administration did recently is they passed a law that gives Americans an exemption if they're in Britain. If I were to say something that is considered libelous by somebody here in Britain, it would be incumbent upon them to take that case to America. They could not take me to a local jurisdiction for libel prosecution. Oh, here's the expert. Here's the expert.
Joe Lieberman introduced it. And originally, what it was, so Alex Jones, you're here in the UK, you're an American citizen, and you say something that Ed Balls decides to sue you for libel. What would happen is that if it were not libel in the U.S. courts, which it wouldn't be, they will not enforce it. The U.S. courts will not enforce a libel judgment. Now, Joe Lieberman tried to make it that, in fact, there would be an automatic 3 times penalty against the UK citizen or person who sued you in a UK court to do that. So that is a certain exception and something that's good that happened for the U.S. citizens.
It gives you like basically a loophole in the law, in that a lot of times you'll say that guy is a jerk, and they'll say, I'm going to sue you for libel, and say, well, that now the way the law reads under Lieberman is like, if it's not considered libel in the U.S., then they can't sue you here in the UK. So it's a loophole that you, as an American broadcaster now in the UK, you can say pretty well anything you can say, you would say in America here, and nobody in the UK establishment can essentially sue you for libel. You've got a free, open speech here thanks to Joe Lieberman. So that's one thing that got through to Joe Lieberman. Everything else he does, I don't like. But here, it's an open season. It's open season for Alex Jones. They can't come after you for libel thanks to Joe Lieberman and this new law.
Very exciting. Now, let me ask you a question, Max. No, I agree with you. Let me ask you a question. We're going to go to phone calls here, but then I want to come back and ask you, where do you see things going for the global bankers? Like how would they like to see things go versus how you see them going? And let's look. Can you go get Steve, who just ran into Ed Balls? Tell people who Ed Balls is. He's the Keebler Elves' mommy. No, he's the shadow.
They have shadow government.
Yeah, they have shadow government, so he's the shadow chancellor, of the exchequer, which, of course, is always the finance minister. So go get Stephen here. I want to take some phone calls. Thank you for holding. Kathleen in Britannia, Albion or England. You're on the air with Max Kaiser, who's up past his bedtime.
Hi there.
What's
you hear
happening?
me? Hi there, Max.
We can barely hear you, but go ahead. Yeah.
You can hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Loud. Okay. I'm an American who's been living in the UK for 28 years. I haven't lost my accent. I keep going back and forth to the States, so I've got a good idea of cultures on both sides. And because I am American, I fit in different places here than if I was British-born, because I don't belong to any particular class. I found this out when I was living in Cambridge. But there's such a class divide. But if you're American, you don't count. So it's easy to fit in both places. My husband is an academic, so I managed to, get involved in that circle in Cambridge.
So great, great.
Well, anyway, the main thing here that I see is the difference between the two societies is that the average person here is dependent on one way or another on the government, either through the NHS, which most people have access to, or benefits like housing benefit. Now, I have two children who both work and are paying taxes, and we still, because of prices, cannot afford a place to live outside of here, and we still.
Sure. So it's collectivization and control, domestication.
All right, so can I ask? Right. So the question then is: you're just making a comment about how to contrast the two countries, really?
That is part of it, but I just have to get my. I have to get my daughter to stop knocking on the door while I'm talking.
Okay, well, let's talk about that for a second, because here in the UK and in France and elsewhere in Europe, the government composes up to 50%. Here in the UK, 49% of the GDP is the government. In America, I believe the last I saw, something like 32% of the economy is the government.
It's horrible.
In France, it's almost 60% of the economy is the government.
And now they have 100% tax on people.
Right, and people are getting, that's right, they're getting a tax on 100% of their income. So here you have this.
That's reasonable.
Well, you have this tension between government and free enterprise, and should the government be involved in picking companies to be started, et cetera, and you have this tension going on. So here in this country, you've got the government, which is up to 50% of the economy, but there are problems, but part of the solution to those problems would be that the government is now allowing for privatization. So things like the NHS and things like education and the transportation system are being tossed to private developers and private contractors. Their solution is to leverage up these institutions with huge amounts of debt. So they're willing, they say, we don't want, the government shouldn't be involved in these things like the NHS or transportation or education. But what we're going to do as private contractors is we're going to take over these facilities, and we're going to increase the debt load by trillions of pounds.
Because there's still a government, they can use it to rob.
But they still want the government to backstop their debt.
No, it's all a piratical deal.
Take your risk or
instead of having a long business name.
See, they got the best of both worlds.
Take your risk or don't.
Gains of running it as an
Ma'am, what do you think of Turdberg? What do you think of Bilderberg? Absolutely. What do you think of Bilderberg meeting in your country and taxpayers having to pay for it?
Well, I believe that this is what I was saying about the benefit bill. I believe all of that was arranged by meetings such as this one in order to keep people compliant. You said yesterday you noticed that everybody was awake. Yes, they're awake because everybody has suffered under the system, who is like the average person on the street. I think if you talk to the public, you'll know of at least just about everybody has known somebody who's had children taken away by the government, or known somebody who's died at the hands of the NHS when they shouldn't have. There is so much suffering.
Yeah, everybody I know talks about how my wife went in to have a small thing and died. Absolutely, you're right. No, I think that's why they're awake, because they're under the eugenics hammer. God bless you, ma'am. Good to hear from you. I agree with you. Scott in Idaho. You want to talk about Bilderberg? You're on the air with Alex Jones and Max Keiser.
Both of you.
Hey, buddy.
It was George Washington, I believe, Alex, that said truth will ultimately prevail where there be pains taken to bring it to light. And I think that that's a lot of what we're trying to do. I recently wrote a letter to my local newspaper, an editorial, wherein I wrote a short list of what I think is wrong with America and why I think the Second Amendment is so important. And if you'd be so kind, I'd like to read that short editorial.
Sure, go ahead. Only 20 pages.
No, they limit it to about 360 words or something like that. I wrote that something is terribly wrong with this country of ours. Come on, people, wake up and smell the tyranny. Endless wars, torture, extraordinary rendition, highest incarceration rate in the world, government spying and surveillance, drone attacks on sovereign countries, presidential kill list, phony elections, runaway debt, political corruption, corporatism, judicial corruption, gun running, fast and furious, media manipulation, excessive taxation, propaganda, human experimentation, weather modification, Ponzi schemes, private banks dictating national monetary policies, oppression of government whistleblowers, depleted uranium, FISA wiretapping, immoral leadership, cronyism, nepotism, backroom congressional deals, secrecy, destabilization of countries, militarization of law enforcement, fusion centers, assassinations, trillions of dollars missing, war profiteering, cover-ups, lies, deceit, checkpoints, free speech zones, no speech zones, warrantless searches, Guantanamo, TSA groping and sexual abuse, false flag attacks, foreign aid to countries that violate human rights, the emasculation of the Bill of Rights, and pepper spray, tear gas, sound cannons, directed energy weapons, rubber bullets, tasers, and nightsticks for peaceful American protesters.
Well, what's wrong with all that? That's the freedom. What's wrong with that?
And now they want us to give up our right to defend ourselves.
This sounds exactly like a song from Gil Scott-Heron. Gil Scott-Heron was one of the first rappers going back to the 1970s, part of the movement which included the Last Poets. And during the civil rights period of the late 60s, early 70s, when the emergence of black culture in America, you had artists like Gil Scott-Heron who would sing songs using that type of words, that type of phraseology. And at the time, of course, most of America would not consider someone like Gil Scott-Heron an artist, but it turns out that he's a prophet, that Gil Scott-Heron was a prophet of who we are today in America. He's written some brilliant material. You look back about the Reagan years, a track called B-Movie, or another track about winter in America. I mean, these are some of the artists in American history that have been ignored, and that if you want to find out, you know, the prophets of who saw all this coming, you go back and you find out that this is not a shock to a lot of people who have been oppressed before the white guys started getting oppressed. There's a lot more oppression in the ghetto.
Absolutely. Thank you, caller. Great points that you made here. We're going to go to Steve Watson, who just ran into the shadow chancellor of the Exchequer here in just a moment. We're going to end the show here in about 15 minutes. Max Keiser past his bedtime. We appreciate him joining us at maxkeiser.com. Follow him at Twitter at Max Keiser. Follow us on The Real Alex Jones. We've also got some reporter pages right now. Our tripod is broken, but we're trying to fix that. Richard is operating as a human tripod right now. Steve Watson is here with us briefly. I want to go to Wes and Will and Corey and Dean at least before we end this transmission. But an example of how thousands of protesters showing up, you never know where they run into the globalist. And that's what's important. And Steve Watson, thank you for joining us. Tell us, is it okay to put your girlfriend on television? Tell us, what a nice lady. She's really fun to hang out with. Tell us all about what just happened.
Well, okay, we were traveling here from London, from Euston Station, and we arrived at Watford Junction, and we were just getting some cash out of an ATM, and I was just looking around, just, you know, thinking about getting in a cab, coming to this hotel.
How extreme!
And, very extreme, and I saw someone whose face I it clicked in my head, but it didn't immediately register the name. And I thought, is that Ed Balls? So I Googled his image, and
sounds like a character from who's the British comedy guy? He's American, but he does the making fun of James Bond.
Austin Powers.
Austin Powers. Ed Balls, secret agent. Keep going. So.
yeah, and he was with a handler of some kind.
Eric Pickles?
Yeah, possibly. But it was definitely him.
Eric Pickles, I presume.
Yeah, it's like 400 pounds.
Was it a 400-pound guy?
No, it wasn't.
Okay,
it was a skinny guy. It wasn't Eric Pickles.
Anyways.
So yeah, the Shadow Chancellor has come to Bilderberg on public transport. And that just means that, and also we saw a couple of others, sharp-looking guys dressed in expensive suits. I've got some video of it, but I don't know if there's anything usable.
No, it is. It's important to show them. Should you go over and talk to them?
Well, I saw Ed Balls. It registered in my mind. I went outside, and I couldn't see him anywhere. And there was a guy hanging around that I thought he was with, and we waited for about 15 minutes, but he'd gone. So then we got in a cab, and we asked the cab driver if he'd taken anyone to the Grove. But
well, obviously, it wasn't that guy, because he would have to come back.
He said,
excellent job, Stevie.
He said he hasn't taken anyone today, but...
Ladies and gentlemen, that is Stevie. Steve Watson of Infowars.com. Thank you, Stevie.
You're welcome.
All right, let's go back now here to Max Keiser. So there you go. There's all sorts of opportunities. You know, I'm going to find the paper, but side issue. We're going to break, come back with a few final calls. What else do you want to impart today?
Well, aside from my plug for BitPay?
Yes.
I think that going forward, I'm glad that you now understand what I've been saying about Europe, that you are very well known in Europe, and I hope this is not the last time we see you in Europe, Alex Jones. That's my main thought. I want to have you back often.
I want to come back. Here's a few headlines that are up on Infowars.com right now. London Telegraph, Bilderberg Group, no conspiracy, just the most influential group in the world. Armed checkpoints surround it. Basically, when I told Watson days ago, this is martial law. So the Telegraph scooped us. Continuing here, just some of the news here on the entire Bilderberg front. It is just incredible to see all of this unfolding. So we'll cover the latest on Bilderberg on the other side, take a few final phone calls here, and then we will continue with live streams and more with Max Keiser and the entire crew. Folks, let's have, because we're in England, hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip, hooray! It's the dog's bollocks, or what do you say? It's the dog's bollocks on them. And piss on Bilderberg. All right. Yeah!
Our viewers have demanded it, so now you're gonna get it. More pro-Second Amendment gun shows in the month of June.
What we've learned is you cannot hide behind an I-beam when there's a 50 cal present.
Brothers in Arms, 50 cal ammo review, and more. Coming in the month of June to the InfoWar.
Folks, Max Keiser is even more insane in person. Look at Watson over there laughing here. Stevie over there. Me with the gun, you with the belt feeding me, huh? That's a Dr. Strangelove quote, ladies and gentlemen. Let's jam in some calls. A polite beat.
Here's my Alex Jones impression.
Put your headphones on so you can talk to the listeners.
Bill Hicks. I am not Bill Hicks. I've never been Bill Hicks.
He knows the secret.
Okay.
Keiser, stop it.
I'm not. No, not me. I'm not.
I am Bill Hicks. Come on. Wes in Indiana, you're on the air.
World order. Oh, sorry.
Bleep that. Keiser is literally, I thought it was all an act. This man is certifiably insane. Wes in Indiana, you're on the air. You got to plug this in to listen to him.
Oh, yes. Technology is always changing, isn't it?
Go ahead. Go ahead. You're on the air, Wes.
Hello, Wes.
Can you hear me, Alex?
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're in the romper room right now.
Hello.
First and foremost, I want to thank you for taking my call, and I love the work that you and the crew at Infowars.com are doing, especially the press coverage that you're giving to the Bilderberg Conference. It wasn't even until a few months ago that I was turned on to you and your website by a friend of mine at work, and I thought that, people at work called me a conspiracy nut because of what I felt was wrong in this government, and here you are just, putting all this out there for everyone to see, and it just justifies everything that I've always believed about our government. What I want to ask is, people are protesting, they're creating petitions, they're yelling, they're getting mad about everything that our government is doing, but when is enough enough? I feel that what the people here in America are doing is not effective because these politicians continue to get away with what they're doing. When do we?
That's a good question, Max. Okay. That's a good question. How do we, instead of a question, it's a question.
Right.
What do we do to defeat them?
Well, I have my opinion on this, and I think it's a three-pronged attack. Number one, independent media. We got that covered. Number two, you got to hit them in the currency level. That means that local currencies, like here in the UK, there's the Bradford pound, I believe. In Bradford, they have their own currency. So the people, the Bristol pound. So the people in Bristol have traded their own local currency, and they trade with each other. So it's all very local.
So media, currency.
And then thirdly, I think that I'm very seriously believe that cryptocurrencies are an important mix of how to defeat the New World Order.
Bitcoin.
I sincerely believe it. I'm appreciate the fact that I can be able to talk about it on this show.
The dollar plunge today. What's going on with that?
But look, the dollar is plunging. Bitcoin price is holding up, and gold and silver have been acting very well. The dollar is a vulnerable currency.
They now admit they've been artificially trying to suppress gold and silver.
Well, they, of course, would they'd have to be, you can't just manipulate bond prices and stock prices and credit default swaps without also or LIBOR. Implied with all that is manipulating gold and silver. It's all part of the same matrix of markets that are being managed.
Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.